Hi, everyone. It's a real pleasure to join you all today. I'd like to thank My Future in Seat for inviting me here to provide a labor market update for the Southwest Prosperity Zone. My name is Jonathan Jareen, and I'm an economist with the Labor and Economic Analysis Division, or LEAD, within the North Carolina Department of Commerce. LEAD is the state's premier resource for labor market information and workforce research. With access to a variety of different data sources, we produce data products and research that help stakeholders make better informed economic decisions. At the end of these slides, I'll share some public resources that we produce that are free for everyone to use. So let's get started. Today, I'd like to cover three different topics. We'll talk about the state of the labor market in the Southwest Prosperity Zone. We'll talk about what it means for job seekers and employers. And we'll talk about the opportunities for labor market alignment. So let's begin by taking a look at the state of the labor market. A first order question is whether or not the Southwest region recovered all the jobs that were lost during the COVID-19 recession. The answer is an unequivocal yes. The COVID-19 recession was pretty unique in that it was characterized by a very sharp yet brief drop in employment, followed by a very rapid recovery as the economy reopened. The Southwest region had surpassed pre-pandemic employment levels by the end of 2021. And by the middle of 2023, the region had 80,000 more jobs than before the pandemic. Now, it's important to point out that among the 10 counties in the region, there has been varying rates of job growth following the COVID-19 recession. But overall, we've seen pretty robust labor market recovery in line with what we've seen statewide and nationally. The unemployment rate is also at a near historic low, suggesting that for the most part, those who are actively looking for work are indeed finding work. The region's unemployment rate was 3.1% in December 2023. Not only is this below the pre-COVID unemployment rate of 3.6%, it is also the lowest rate we've seen in over 2 decades since the early 2000s. This very low unemployment rate is actually a feature across all 10 counties. So each county has a lower unemployment rate compared to pre-pandemic. So labor market conditions appear solid, at least relative to pre-pandemic. But what about more recently? Is the Southwest region continuing to add jobs? Well, the answer is yes, but the labor market is certainly showing signs of cooling off. We can see this when we look at the change in job openings and job seekers over the past 3 years. So the number of job openings in the region is 43% higher than January 2020 levels. The number of job seekers in the region is 2% higher than January 2020 levels. There was a large uptick in job openings in 2021 and 2022 as the job opening and job hopping and hiring increased. You may recall people talking about the Great Resignation or the Great Reshuffling around this time. However, this was followed by a gradual slowdown in job openings throughout 2023, driving this overall labor market cooldown that we've observed. So even though our labor market is cooling off, there are still plenty of job opportunities out there for job seekers. By the end of 2023, there was around one job seeker per job opening, which is suggestive of a tight labor market. For context, at the height of the Great Recession, the ratio was around 10 job seekers per job opening in North Carolina. And I think it's important to highlight that in this region and elsewhere in the state, remote work rates have remained elevated. Some 22% of workers in the region worked from home in 2022, and compare that to only 8% in 2019. These remote and hybrid options have certainly increased opportunities for job seekers to access employment in areas beyond just their local communities. On the flip side of the labor market, what does this all mean for employers? Well, employers still need talent, and they've had a tough time finding workers over the past few years. And really, given what we know about our aging workforce and the wave of retirements over the coming decade, we can expect these labor challenges to persist. We have seen employers adapt and respond to these hiring difficulties in a number of ways to remain competitive. Some have looked for talent in new places, such as among those with disabilities, the formerly incarcerated, opportunity youth, or veterans. Some have raised wages in an effort to attract or retain talent. Some have offered new benefits, such as paid leave, childcare assistance, and tuition assistance. Some have even offered more work flexibility, as I talked about recently. These efforts and more will serve an important role in the face of demographic headwinds in the years to come. So let's turn our attention forward. What can we expect in this region over the coming years? Based on our employment projections, we can expect solid job growth through 2030 with more than 140,000 new jobs projected. This job growth will be led by the services side of the economy, including sectors like professional, scientific, and technical services, arts, entertainment, and recreation, and finance and insurance, to name a few. Importantly, these projections don't include jobs from new companies moving into the area through economic development. We've already seen over 10,000 job announcements in this region over the last 2 years, which would certainly contribute to that overall job growth, joining, among others, a lot of these top employers in the region. So, alongside these industry projections, identifying the most promising occupations in the region is also of critical importance. At LEAD, we produce a list of these occupations for different sub-state regions across North Carolina by considering three metrics. We look at average wages, growth rates, and job openings. We then assign a star rating to these occupations, ranging from 1 star to 5 stars. Occupations with 5 stars have the most promise for future growth and high wages. When we zoom into the Southwest region, some examples of the 5 star occupations include occupations like software developers, registered nurses, truck drivers, construction managers, automotive technicians, and data scientists. Overall, there are 96 5 star occupations in the Prosperity Zone, spanning 15 of 16 career clusters. 84% of these occupations require some form of post-secondary education. And we can see from data in the Charlotte region that, in general, workers with higher education have higher earnings. Annual median earnings for workers with a bachelor's degree are nearly twice that of workers with only a high school diploma. This is something that we also see at the statewide level. So we've established that there are many fast-growing occupations in the region that require some form of post-secondary training. And generally, this post-secondary training leads to higher earnings over time. But does this post-secondary training align with the demand in the regional economy? In other words, is there labor market alignment? To answer this question, we can compare the share of job openings and the concentration of different credentials being conferred in the area by different career clusters. So for example, in the business administration career cluster, this accounts for 19% of job openings in the area. However, only 8% of credentials conferred are in business administration. Similarly, in health science, this accounts for around 20% of job openings, but only 14% of credentials are conferred in health science. And then as a final example, information technology comprises 11% of job openings, but 7% of credentials. So what we can see from these figures is that these three career clusters are areas where they make up a lower concentration of credentials, despite comprising a larger concentration of job openings in the regional economy. When we aggregate up all the career clusters and calculate an overall index for this region, we find that there is roughly 80% alignment between credentials and labor market demand in the Southwest Prosperity Zone. In an ideal world of perfect alignment, that percentage would be at 100%, which is admittedly high and unlikely given economic realities. But nevertheless, more work can be done to improve alignment between the supply of graduates and employer needs. So in closing, I think it's important to highlight some key takeaways for the different audiences, all under a common purpose. So for employers, I think the takeaway is that there should be more adaptation to workforce changes. Demographic changes are inevitable, and labor shortages may persist as the population continues to age. To this end, it will be important to continuously reassess recruitment and retention practices over time. For educators and students, assess labor market needs. Many of the highest paying and fastest growing jobs often require post-secondary education, which makes alignment important. Our region is relatively under-concentrated in areas like business administration, health science, and information technology, to name a few. For leaders, advance regionalism. The region has a growing population and workforce, but growth only occurs across the counties in an uneven fashion. Consider the different opportunities and challenges that workers face in accessing job opportunities beyond just their local area. This brings up factors like infrastructure, broadband access, and so forth. We live in a big labor market with many opportunities across industries, occupations, and geographies. So thank you for allowing me to share some data and insights with you all today. As I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in finding more data for your region, please check out our lead analytics page, which has more regional economic dashboards, reports, tools, and monthly newsletters to stay informed. Some of you may already be aware of NC Careers, but our nccareers.org website is a one-stop shop for students, parents, educators, and job seekers looking for high-quality career information. The links and the QR codes in these slides will take you directly to those websites. And then finally, here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or need help finding any resource from LEAD. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you allowing me to share some of the labor market with you all today.